dudes and dudettes. How are you guys? This is Chazzy and welcome back to 8-Bit Chazzy, for my namesake there, the segment on this channel where I review games that I play, not necessarily on the channel but outside of it as well. A long time ago when this series started, I actually reviewed the games that I played exclusively on the channel. I would do a whole playlist, I would finish that, I would review the game in question, but now, similar to Cinema Chazzy where I do movies and Tele Chazzy where I do TV shows, I just want to review whatever the hell I want, you know? Not every game that I play outside of YouTube I'm going to want to play on the channel, and not every game that I play on the channel I'm going to want to review here, you know, like sports games for example. But you know, it's just I just want to give you guys a better variety of content, you know, and if I play a game that I think is really cool and interesting and I feel like reviewing it, I will, you know, and that's the case for today's game, which is called 12 Minutes, you know, published by Annapurna Interactive, who actually have made quite a few really amazing games, you know, in recent years, and it was released last year in 2021, and it is a very, very interesting game. It takes a really cool concept and just expands on it tenfold, you know, where basically the entire game is played from a top-down perspective, and it happens throughout a 10-minute loop in a small apartment, you know, where a husband and a wife are trying to have a normal evening, but events start to happen that unravel a whole mystery, you know. There are only three main characters, you know, which is the husband and the wife, who are voiced by James McAvoy and Daisy Ridley, and then there's a cop, you know, who's voiced by Willem Dafoe, and the dynamics are actually really interesting because the game starts out normally, you know, nothing really seems out of the ordinary, you know. You come home to your wife and you guys have a nice little chit chat, you may even eat dessert, have a dinner, you know, sit down and talk, but after a while a police officer or somebody who claims to be a police officer comes to the door, you know, and knocks on it, and then he arrests your wife, accusing her of murdering her father, you know. Then you're like, WTF, what's going on here, you know. Then the husband gets knocked out by the cop, and then the day restarts, you know. Everything that happened goes back to the beginning from when he first entered the apartment earlier, you know. And then you find out that what you're going through is basically a form of Groundhog Day, where, you know, whenever you die, you know, the day or just get hit really really hard, the day resets, you know. But the entire game is set around the same 10-minute loop. So every 10 minutes in the game, the loop will restart no matter what happens. You know, like if you get killed, you know, by the cop or shoved to the ground, it restarts. If you try to leave the apartment, you know, it restarts. You know, so you can trigger the restart, you know, if you want to do something specific. But there's always a 10-minute loop, and despite the entire game taking place around one 10-minute loop, it will take you anywhere from 6 to 8 hours to finish the whole thing, man. Because there are obviously multiple different endings, you know. I played through it, I got all the achievements on Xbox, you know. Obviously I used the guide, I tried to figure it out for myself, but at the end I was like, you know what, man, I just want all the achievements, so I'll use a guide, you know. So I couldn't, man. I don't have the patience for a game like this, but it is really cool, very nice. If you have the patience for it, you know, by all means go for it, you know. And I really thought it was nice, you know. I think it was really cool. And before I get into the more nitty-gritty details here, let's watch a little short clip of it.
So when is a dessert not just a dessert? I have something to share. So?
Okay, look, I clearly haven't opened it yet, and I know there are baby clothes inside.
I just bought them today. How could you know?
Pretty cool, huh? So before I continue, I'm going to, you know, this should be obvious already just by the title of the video and reviewing the name, but there will be spoilers ahead. I'm just gonna say that right now. So if you are curious about the game and you want to play it before, you know, knowing about what happens, then just click away right now. But before you go, give me a like just so I can know that you appreciated my effort anyway, you know. And if you don't care, then just keep watching, it's all good. But I'm going to be getting into some heavy spoilers here into the story, so you have been warned. But anyway, so basically, the way that the game presents the solutions are actually really clever, because every single time that you do something different in the loop, the information that you gather there will come with you in the next loop. So if you find out something in a certain loop and, you know, and then you die and it restarts again, you're going to carry that information with you, and you can actually use it to talk to your wife or the cop or whoever it is, you know. And depending on what you say to your wife, she's gonna get really upset, you know, or get really emotional and talk to you about it, you know. And it is possible for you to have a perfect evening, which is an achievement, you know, where nothing happens. You guys come home, she tells you that she's pregnant, you see the present, you know, and and you guys have dessert, you go to sleep, the cop doesn't even show up, you know. So there are so many small things that you can do. There's even if you want to, you can get inside the apartment and hide in the closet and close it before your wife comes out of the bathroom, so she's not even gonna know that you're home. The cop shows up anyway, he arrests her. Unfortunately, he also kills her and makes it look like a suicide, goes into the bathroom and gets a pocket watch from under the sink, you know, and leaves. So then you can restart the loop by walking out, and then you're going to know a whole bunch of stuff. You know, you're gonna know there's gonna be a pocket watch in the bathroom. You can go and grab it without her noticing, you know, and then question her about it. And it just builds on itself, you know. It gets really addictive because like you just want to keep playing so you can learn more and more and more, you know. And at the very end of the game, when you're going into the final loop, you pretty much have all the information you need to pretty much make any ending that you want happen, you know. And it's possible to set a trap to drug your wife, make her go to sleep. The cop comes into the bedroom, sees her laying there. Then you sneak up on him and ambush him, then tie him up, and he wakes up and you interrogate him, you know. There's so many different ways to gather information. It's crazy, you know. And there's a whole story there. There's a really deep lore where the wife is accused of the murder of her father, who is a close friend to the man who said he's a cop, you know. And apparently she was killed on Christmas Eve, but then her story contradicts what actually happened. The evidence doesn't really add up, you know. It's possible for you to get the cop's daughter's number from his phone after you knock him out, to call her and kind of make her call him and see if you can calm down before you guys have the conversation, you know. It's possible to have a decent regular conversation with all three of you, you know, all three adults there, and flesh out all the details. We find out that the cop has a daughter who has cancer, and he needs that golden watch, that pocket watch, to sell and pay for her treatment, you know. So his intentions are good, even if the execution is a little brutal, you know. But there is a way for you to give him the watch. He leaves peacefully and goes to take care of business, you know. Then we find out that there are a few other details that kind of make the game go into confusing and even a little bit of disturbing, creepy territory, you know, which I'm gonna talk about after this next snippet here.
Look, I know this sounds weird, but the day's repeating itself.
What are you talking about?
I've done it before. Just listen. I haven't figured out how it all works yet, but for example, if I get beat up, I go back to the start of the evening.
What?
Now, the idea behind the game was very novel, you have to admit, you know, it's really, really creative the way that the developers made such a rich story out of that, but you can't make a game involving time loops, you know, and not having it get a little bit confusing, and it did happen at one point, you know, towards the end, where you can pick up the pocket watch and you notice that if you stare at it for a while and just keep looking at it, eventually the time will slow and you can go into it, you know, you go back to the past, you cause a flashback to happen, you know, where you get more details. And then we find out that the husband, as a teenager, you know, he actually apparently killed what we assume is his father in an accident, you know, with the gun. But there's a little bit more to the story, you know. The wife's mother, you know, hold on a second, that's not what happened. Hey, we find out that her father had an affair with their nanny, you know, and actually that's what drove her mother to kill herself. And this affair produced an illegitimate child, you know, who was a boy who grows up to fall in love with a girl, and they get married and they live together and they become the husband and wife characters who we are following and playing as. And then we find out that they're half siblings. This is undoubtedly one of the most unsettling video game plot twists of all time, and I was not expecting that. I was expecting the cop to turn out to be a cross-dressing, you know, traffic worker or something before I would believe this, and I was not expecting this at all whatsoever. And it really pulled the rug out from under me, because that is creepy and disgusting on so many levels, man. You know, I know it's a half sibling, but still, there's something wrong with the gene pool there. It does explain their attraction to one another, how they felt that connection, but it was just so weird. And we find out that the whole thing is basically like the loops aren't really happening. They're just inside of the boy's imagination, and the cop that we see are actually a manifestation of the father's interference, you know. And that's when the game gets really confusing, because then you don't know what's going on. There you have an option to fight back or resist, you know. You can fight back and break the father's neck, and then the loops are gonna keep happening forever because you don't want to fall out of love with your half-sister, you know, or just allow it to happen naturally. Then the loops begin anew, because there's a way for you to recite a poem from the wife's book, and then everything begins, or you can just let it happen. And then let me read directly from the source, because this is already confusing enough. Okay, so if he refuses the proposal, then a scuffle happens, and then you break the father's neck, and the loops are continuing to repeat, blah, blah, blah. If you accept the proposal to leave your sister, you enter a loop where the apartment is empty and you're all alone. If you recite a book that the wife was reading during the loops, then the father offers to help you forget about her, which makes the loops reset and begin anew. And then if you recite the same book again and just stare at the clock before choosing to forget about everything, then the father tells him to end the imaginary future, which ends all the time loops and essentially the game, which I think is like the main ending, the ending A, or the saddest one, I don't know. But basically, the game is really well structured. The story is really well told. The characters, even though they are few, you know, there are so many different dialogue options. It's kind of like Telltale meets, I don't know, the Elder Scrolls or something, if that's a good example. Because, not the Elder Scrolls. It's essentially like a Telltale game where you can choose the dialogues, you know, and so many different things can happen. I don't know what other game I can compare it to, but it's actually really similar to Telltale in that sense there. But confining you to a small space in the top-down perspective and forcing you to create different outcomes, you know, is really mind-boggling. I personally enjoyed it a lot. I think it was a really good game, even if I had to use a guide to play it, because I just could not try all of that by myself to get certain achievements as well. So the way that the character development plays out, depending on how you approach things and how you talk to your wife and what you accuse her of, you know, we find out that the father survived on there's two accounts where the father survived the bullet on New Year's Eve, on Christmas Eve, but then somebody else shot him on New Year's, you know. There's like so many different stories that go on, you know, and it's really cool how you can diffuse the situation with the cop, you know. Even if you try to lock the door, he still breaks in, so he's gonna come into the apartment no matter what. The first time it happens, you're a little intimidated, you're kind of scared. I was feeling a little sad because of it, because, you know, he killed my freaking wife. But then as the story goes on and you find out more details, it's freaking insane, man. You know, it's freaking insane. And there are ways where you can manipulate events around you to convince your wife that you are stuck in a time loop, you know, where you go and gather items. Like she has a gift for you, which is the baby clothes, right? But you don't know about it until later, so you can go into the room and get it. And before you even open it up, you tell her that there are baby clothes in there, you know, so you know about the watch under the sink. So there are ways that you can use the knowledge that you've gathered in other loops to affect the loop you're in right now. And I think that's really cool. I think that it offers you a very creative way to play the game, you know, and you can pretty much do it in however way you want to. So I think that's really cool. And this game, man, it's definitely well recommended by me, I'll tell you that. Let's take a look at another clip here.
In the next few minutes, a cop is gonna knock on our door.
It's some kind of sick joke.
He's gonna hurt us. You gotta go.
And leave you alone?
Police! You're under arrest for your father's murder 8 years ago.
My father? Please, you must be thinking of someone else.
No playing dumb.
Now, me personally, like, if I had to give this game a rating, I would probably be a 9 out of 10, you know. Let me explain why it didn't go all the way. It's not perfect, you know. It did have way too many complicated subplots, you know, and ways that the game could go, and it's way too rich in content, you know, which in this case is a bad thing, because I mean, if I had to play the game legitimately without using any guides, I would have probably still not finished it, you know. So it does get really, really tiring having to constantly repeat the same loop over and over and over again, you know. Much like the husband character in the game, I was almost feeling like I was going crazy, you know. So it's not perfect, you know, but the idea was good. So 9 out of 10 I think is really fair to it, you know. And if you haven't played it yourself, I think it's no longer on Xbox Game Pass, you know, but if you have a PC, it's probably free somewhere, you know, but it's definitely worth your time, you know. Not a very high replay value, because if you've beaten it, gotten all the achievements, you know all of the endings, you know what happens. I don't think there's really much more that you can do, you know. So I don't think it's the kind of game where you can play, like, once you're done with it completely, I don't think you're gonna want to play it again. So however much it costs, if you want to purchase it, go ahead. But if you played it while it was on Game Pass, I'm pretty sure you got your bang for your buck there, you know. So I think it's good, you know, playing a game that's different like this, that offers you something completely out of the box, you know. And it was good, man. It was a good experience. Very crazy twist there with the half-siblings thing. That really caught me off guard. I was not expecting that at all, but I guess that's just how it is, you know. Not all of them are going to be absolute bangers, but the studio that made it really had balls, man. They really had balls. Annapurna, actually, they make some, I don't even know if that's how you pronounce it, but they make some really good games. They also made What Remains of Edith Finch, one of the greatest games I've ever played as well, you know. Just of the sheer story and the way that it was told, you know, was just really up there. They also made, they have a few games here: Sayonara Wild Hearts, The Pathless, Maquette, Kentucky Route Zero, Gorgoa, Donut County, and Outer Wilds, you know. So, but 12 minutes is really special, you know. The time loop thingy actually reminds me a lot of The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, if you played it, you know. And I think that the comparisons are, you know, there is a certain segment in that game where there are a few time loops there, you know. It's been a long time, so I don't remember the details, but it is similar in that department. So yeah, guys, I guess that's all I have to say. Gave my rating, gave my opinion, you know, and let me know in the comments below what you guys thought about this game, if you played it, and if you haven't, well, go ahead and play it with all of the spoilers that I gave you, but at least maybe it'll help you beat the game, you know. There is a guide here. I don't know who did it. I think it might have been Maka or maybe the Welsh Hunter, somebody. I'm going to leave a link to the guide here that I used to complete the game completely. You know, it helped me out a lot, and it might definitely help you a bit. So, yeah. That's it, guys. I'm gonna be going out because I still have more videos to record, and this review is pretty much done. So that's it. If you happen to like this video, please go ahead and give it a like, and also subscribe to my channel because I release videos every single day. And while you're at it, might as well also hit the notification button to know exactly what time I upload it. It's all good, guys. And that's it. This is Chazzy signing out for now, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video once this time loop restarts. Roll the outro screen.
You're home. What are you doing? Are you okay?